There's an old story about a man who was given the job of peeling a large mound of potatoes. The one who hired him told him, after you peel them, sort them into 3 piles, small, medium, and large. After an hour or so, the employer checked on the man and found him exhausted. I didn't realize that peeling potatoes was such a hard job, the employer said. The man replied, peeling potatoes is not that difficult. It's making all those decisions that's wearing me out. You know, we don't like to make choices. Some are unimportant, while other choices are very important. In the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 6, beginning with verse 19, we are presented with some very important choices. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are good, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve 2 masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Some choices are given. The first choice is earth or heaven. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth. That's the one way to do it. But Jesus says, store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. John R.W. Stott gave the following summary of what Jesus was denouncing. What Jesus forbids his followers is the selfish accumulation of goods, extravagant and luxurious living, the hard-heartedness which does not fill the colossal need of the world's underprivileged people, the foolish fantasy that a person's life consists in the abundance of his possessions, and the materialism which tethers our hearts to the earth. In first century Palestine, in that area, most of the houses were built kind of out of mud. It wasn't all that hard to break into them. A little effort you could break in. Some would have money, and they would try to hide it. It could be very easily stolen. Also, there were some things that were valuable, but they could even rust. There were those who invested in cloth. The moths could get into it. Debbie's brother and his wife did missionary work in Bolivia for a little while. And so they sent back items from Bolivia as gifts. And they sent us some slippers. I think that's the only time we ever had moths in our closet. Those moths found those slippers. They liked the material they were made out of. Earthly investment can be lost. Clovis G. Chappell wrote, "Our treasure is that something that we love the best. It is that which we most yearn to possess, if it is not ours. It is that which we most fear to lose, if we already possess it." The list of potential wealth destroyers is almost endless. No, we don't worry too much about moths. Most of us put most of our money, if we have any, in the bank. But there are all kinds of things that can take our wealth away. Serious illness, business reverses, loss of a job, collapse of the economy, mishandling of funds, natural disasters, wars. one can lose their wealth in any number of ways. Herman Hendricks commented, "Far from minimizing anxiety, the possession of material wealth becomes a source of anxiety, since it is constantly subject to decay and loss." Jesus is saying some things here in the Sermon on the Mount about being anxious, not being anxious. He's going to really get specific in the following passage that we'll study next time. But laying up treasures on earth doesn't always take care of anxiety, does it? Do we have enough in the bank? Can we lose what we have? The writer of Proverbs, verse 23, verse 5 said, "Cast but a glance at riches, and they are gone. For they will surely sprout wings and fly off to the sky like an eagle." Sometimes it just seems like our money flies away. Stott observes, in heaven there are neither moths nor mice nor marauders. Jesus says, lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. There you don't have the moth problem, or the rust problem, or the thief problem. He also says, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. We tend to put our talents, our time, and our money into what we truly value. Do we value spiritual matters? Does our giving of our time, our talent, and our money indicate that? It has been said that we can't take it with us, but we can send it on ahead. A similar truth has been expressed like this: what we keep, we lose, but what we give, we have. Someone said the heart follows the treasure as the sunflower follows the sun. The Apostle Paul, in writing to Timothy in his first letter, has these words to say, things that Timothy needs to pass on. Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way they will lay up treasures for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. We might be tempted to say, keep preaching that, Paul. Tell those rich folks that they need to be careful about their money. We are rich simply because we were born on this soil. Our poverty class in the United States is above what many people make in the rest of the world who aren't considered the poor there. We have been blessed. We need to keep in mind that what we have now, we're not going to take with us in the sense we talked about this morning. We leave it all behind in that sense, but we can send it on in the spiritual sense. We can lay up for ourselves treasures in heaven. Jesus tells us to do that. Mel Stennett told a class about David Livingstone, the missionary to Africa for over 30 years. When Dr. Livingstone died, his body was brought back to England. It took several weeks to get back to England. But when he died, his heart was removed and buried in Africa at the foot of the tree where he died. Brother Stennett asked those in the class, if people from another country followed you around for a year, where would they bury your heart? In your bank, in your house, in your place of business, or where? Livingstone's heart was in Africa, in a non-literal sense, and when he died, in a literal sense. Then Jesus talks about the eye being the lamp of the body. If you have good eyes, the whole body is full of light. That's not in the literal sense, this is a metaphor. But it is a blessing to be able to see. It influences everything that we do. If the eyes are bad, the whole body will be full of darkness. If the light within us is darkness, how great is that darkness? This is an extended metaphor, comparing healthy eyesight with poor eyesight, but it has something to do with how we view material possessions. Do we have a healthy or an unhealthy view of possessions? D.A. Carson stated, "The darkness is all the more terrible for failure to recognize it for what it is." Some people don't know what to do with their blessings. They've been blessed, and sometimes you would think they think they're going to live forever, or that they are going to be able to take it with them. We have to keep in mind what God expects us to do with the blessings He's given us. There's the choice of serving wealth or God. No one can serve two masters. We must choose between wealth and God. There is no neutral position. Robert H. Mounce described the opening words of verse 24 as one of Jesus' most memorable statements. And so it is. A.H. McNeil noted, "Men can work for two employers, but no slave can be the property of two owners." Davies and Allison in their commentary say, "The marching orders of God and of mammon are in entirely different directions. Why can't you serve God and money? It takes you in opposite directions." R.B.G. Tasker observed that single ownership and full-time service are the essence of slavery. No one can be a slave. No one can serve two masters. You hate the one, love the other. Devoted to the one, you despise the other. Jack P. Lewis noted, "Many a man is owned by that which he thinks he owns." And Jesus did not give the option. He said, no one can serve two masters. It has been said that money is a good servant but a harsh master. E. Stanley Jones noted, "To be able to live a spiritual life in the midst of a material environment has been and is the perpetual problem of religion." Jesus has some things to say about money. You know, some people complain. All they ever talk about in church is money. Well, Jesus had a whole lot to say about the subject himself. We need to have the right attitude toward things and toward money, toward wealth. Once upon a time, a little boy was walking to Sunday school. His mother had given him 2 quarters, one for candy and the other for the offering. And wouldn't you know, as he dawdled on his way, he tripped and fell. One of the quarters in his chubby little hand slipped out, rolled down the sidewalk, fell over the curb, and went kerplunk in the sewer. The boy got up, looked up into heaven, and said, "Well, God, there goes your quarter." If it's always God's quarter that gets lost, then the fact is we're serving money, which is idolatry. We must choose who we will serve. Choices may be difficult, but the instruction is clear. We must serve God.